Impossible. Vex Talar's voice carried panic. Our shields are quantum encrypted. No primitive technology could. His words were cut off as the first human missiles reached their targets. The UE's Vengeance, under Captain Alex Wright's command, fired a full spread at the nearest alien cruiser. Without shields, the alien ship's armor cracked like an eggshell. All ships weapons-free, Admiral Davis ordered. Target their military vessels only. Any ship that surrenders is to be protected. The battle erupted across the system. Human ships that had been cargo haulers and passenger liners 6 years ago now fought with the fury of an outraged species. The U's Liberty, commanded by retired Admiral Frank Moore, led a charge against the alien battle line. For Emma Martinez. Frank shouted over the communication channel as his converted merchant ships tore into the alien formation. Captain Bill. Stone's U's hammer unleashed mining charges converted into ship-killer weapons. The explosives, designed to break apart asteroids, shattered alien hulls with devastating effect. That's for trying to buy Emma's life with money. He called out as another alien ship broke apart. Engineer Amy Foster worked frantically at her. Weapons console aboard the UES Retribution, coordinating missile strikes across the fleet. Target their engines, not their life support, she told the other gunners. Emma wouldn't want us to kill unnecessarily. The aliens fought back with their energy weapons, but their tactics were rigid and predictable. Dr. Carl Rogers had spent 4 years studying their movement patterns, and his predictions proved accurate. Human ships dodged alien fire with an unpredictability that confused the enemy commanders. Jenny Adams, the former cargo ship engineer, fired missile after missile from her position on the UE's Vengeance. "This is for every human child who might meet aliens in the future," she said. As her weapons found their targets, within 2 hours, half the Zephyrian fleet was disabled or destroyed. The remaining alien ships began to break formation, some attempting to flee while others sent surrender signals. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Lisa White, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from 47 alien vessels. They're requesting terms. Grant them safe passage to the surface," Admiral Davis ordered, "but not Vex Talar. He answers for Emma's death personally." The alien commander's ship was the last one fighting. Vex Talar had seen his fleet destroyed by weapons. He didn't understand, wielded by beings driven by emotions his species couldn't comprehend. His ship was damaged, his shields down, his crew requesting permission to surrender. "Human Admiral," Vex Talar transmitted, "I yield. The collective acknowledges defeat." "That's not enough," Admiral Davis replied. "You personally killed Emma. Martinez, you personally must face justice." "What justice?" "Your small one is dead. Nothing can change that fact." Admiral Davis felt 4 years of anger and grief crystallize into cold determination. "Bring your ship alongside mine, Vex Talar. You're going to meet Emma's parents." The alien commander's ship docked with the UES Retribution under heavy guard. Vex Talar was escorted to the main conference room, where Admiral Davis waited with Father Tony Martinez, Emma's uncle who had served as the fleet's chaplain. Vex Talar looked at the human priest with confusion. "You are not a military officer. Why are you present at this negotiation?" "I'm Emma's uncle," Father Tony said quietly. "I'm here to speak for my niece." The alien's large eyes widened slightly. "The small one had family aboard your vessels?" "Emma had family across our entire species," Admiral Davis said. "Every human who saw that security footage became her family. Every person who volunteered for this mission was fighting for their own child." For the first time, Vex Talar seemed to understand the magnitude of what he had done. "Your species mobilized an entire fleet for one individual?" "We mobilized an entire fleet for the principle that Emma represented," Father Tony corrected. "She believed that all life was precious, that even enemies deserved compassion. You killed her for showing mercy to your soldier. The alien commander sat in silence for several minutes. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. I have studied your species for 4 years. Your military tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. But I never understood your strengths. And what did you learn? Admiral Davis asked. That you are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of your weapons or your numbers, but because you care about each other in ways we cannot comprehend. You turned a single death into a cause that united billions of beings. Vex Talar looked at Father Tony. What justice do you seek for the small one? For Emma Martinez? Emma believed in forgiveness, Father Tony said. She would want you to understand what you did wrong, not just die for it. The collective will withdraw from human space and pay reparations for the colony attack. You personally will stand trial for murder. And if I refuse? Admiral Davis leaned forward. Then we glass your homeworld and every collective colony until your species learns what happens to child killers. Your choice. Vex Talar stared at the 2 humans, seeing in their faces the same determination that had driven a fleet across the galaxy. I accept your terms. I will face human justice for my crime. 3 months later, the Emma Martinez Memorial Station was completed in orbit around the Zephyrian homeworld. The massive structure served as both a monument to human loss and a reminder of human values. The station schools taught alien children about the human girl who died trying to save an enemy life. Admiral Davis stood in the station's central observatory, looking down at the planet below. The Zephyrian Collective had agreed to all human terms, including the establishment of the memorial station and educational programs about Emma's life. The first classes start tomorrow, reported Dr. Kate Johnson, who had been appointed as the station's director. We have over 1,000 young Zephyrians enrolled to learn about human culture and values. Emma would have loved that, Admiral Davis said. She always wanted to teach others about life. Father Tony Martinez held the first interfaith service in the station's chapel, with humans and aliens praying together for peace. Emma Martinez died because she believed that all beings deserved compassion, he told the mixed congregation. Today, we honor her memory by choosing understanding over hatred. Vex Talar was tried by human military court and sentenced to life imprisonment. But in an unexpected turn, he requested to serve his sentence at the memorial station, helping to teach young Zephyrians about the consequences of violence against innocents. I took a life that valued all life, he said at his sentencing. I will spend my remaining years ensuring other beings understand what I destroyed. Captain Alex Wright commanded the first mixed human-alien crew aboard the UES New Horizon, a ship designed for peaceful exploration. His engineer, Jenny Adams, worked alongside former Zephyrian military officers to explore distant systems safely. Emma would have loved this, Jenny told Alex as they prepared to visit an uncharted world. Humans and aliens working together to discover new life. The human expeditionary fleet returned to Earth as heroes, but they carried with them something more valuable than victory. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology, but their absolute refusal to let innocents die. UNAVEGED, Dr. Nathan Price, established the Emma Martinez Institute for Xenobiology, funded by Zephyrian reparations. Young scientists from across human space came to study alien life, carrying forward Emma's dream of understanding and protecting all living things. Admiral Davis retired after the war, but she kept Emma's photo on her desk in her new office at the Institute. When young scientists asked about the girl in the picture, she would tell them the story of the 16-year-old who started a war by showing kindness to an enemy. Emma Martinez died believing that all life was precious. Admiral Davis would conclude, "We fought a war to prove she was right. Now it's your job to explore the galaxy and show other species what she taught us, that compassion is not weakness, but the greatest strength any being can possess. The memorial station orbited the Zephyrian homeworld, a permanent reminder that humanity would cross any distance and pay any price to protect those who could not protect themselves. And in the station's central hall, Emma Martinez's photo looked out at the stars she had dreamed of exploring, her smile eternal and her legacy secured. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just another spacefaring species. They were the beings who would wage war for a single child's memory, who would turn grief into justice, and who would never, ever forget those who showed kindness to their enemies. Emma Martinez had wanted to be a scientist. Instead, she became something more. She became the reason why no other species would ever dare to harm a human child again. Admiral Davis stared at the alien who had killed Emma. "I know who you are, Vextalar. You're the murderer we're coming to find. The small human's death was a tactical decision. She was interfering with our wounded soldier. I acted to protect Zephyrian interests. She was giving medical aid to your soldier. She was 16 years old." The alien paused. Age classifications are irrelevant in combat situations. However, the collective now understands this incident has caused ... complications. We offer compensation for the loss of your breeding unit. Admiral Davis's voice turned ice cold. Her name was Emma Martinez. She was a daughter, a student, a scientist who believed in helping others. And you're going to learn exactly what her life was worth to us. The collective offers territorial concessions and trade agreements. Your response is disproportionate to the loss of a single individual. Then you understand nothing about humanity. We'll see you in 1 year, Vextalar. You can explain your tactical decisions to Emma's parents. The transmission ended. Admiral Davis sat in her command chair, staring at the empty screen. The alien truly didn't understand what he had done wrong. To him, Emma was just another casualty, barely worth noticing. The fleet's morale grew stronger after that transmission. Hearing the alien's casual dismissal of Emma's life reminded everyone why they were making this journey. The crew members wrote letters to their families back on Earth, knowing the messages wouldn't arrive for years. Captain Bill Stone wrote to his daughter on Earth. "We heard from the aliens today. They offered to pay us money for Emma's life, like she was property they'd damaged. They don't understand that some things can't be bought or replaced. They're going to learn that lesson the hard way." Engineer Amy Foster had worked herself into exhaustion during the fleet preparation, but the long journey gave her time to recover. She spent her days maintaining the weapon systems and her evenings in the ship's library, reading about Emma Martinez. She wanted to be a xenobiologist. Amy told her friend Carol Davis. She dreamed of cataloging alien life across the galaxy. Instead, she became the reason we're at war with aliens. "Maybe both things can be true," Carol replied. "Maybe this war will make space safer for future scientists like Emma." Dr. Nathan Price continued his research during the journey, analyzing more alien communications and developing new weapons. His shield disruption devices had been tested and retested, but he kept improving them. "The aliens use a 3-layer shield system," Nathan explained to Admiral Davis during a briefing. "Physical barriers, energy fields, and some kind of probability distortion. Our disruptors will collapse all 3 layers simultaneously." "How long will they stay down?" 15 minutes minimum. More than enough time for our missiles to reach their targets. As the fleet entered its 4th year of travel, the aliens made increasingly desperate diplomatic offers. They promised to withdraw from human space, to share technology, to sign non-aggression treaties. But their messages still referred to Emma as the lost unit or the damaged property. "They still don't get it," observed Father Tony Martinez during one of his services. 4 years of talking to us, and they still think Emma was just another resource, They can't comprehend that we loved her. Admiral Davis called a fleet-wide meeting as they prepared for the final approach to Zephyrian space. Her image appeared on every ship's main screen, addressing all 50,000 crew members simultaneously. "In 6 months, we'll reach Zephyrian territory," she announced. "For 4 years, we've traveled across the galaxy to deliver justice for Emma Martinez. The aliens have had 4 years to understand what they did wrong. They've had 4 years to show genuine remorse." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Instead, they've offered us money and territory, as if Emma's life was something they could purchase. They've tried to negotiate away their crime. If it was a business transaction, they still don't understand that they murdered a child who was trying to save one of their soldiers." The Admiral's voice grew firm. "When we reach their system, we will give them one final chance to surrender and face justice. If they refuse, we will show them what humanity does to those who harm our children." Emma Martinez died believing that all life was precious. We will honor that belief by being merciful to those who surrender. But we will be merciless to those who continue to fight. She ended the transmission with words that had become the fleet's motto, for Emma Martinez and for all the children she represents. As the fleet prepared for its final approach, Commander Vex Talar sat in his command center on the Zephyrian homeworld. He had studied human military tactics for 4 years, trying to understand their technology and strategy. But he still couldn't understand their motivation. "Why do they care so much about one small human?" he asked his intelligence officer. "They've spent enormous resources on this mission. It makes no strategic sense." "Perhaps that's what makes them dangerous," the officer replied. "They don't follow logical military doctrine. They're driven by emotions we don't comprehend." Vex Talar looked at the tactical display showing human fleet positions. 200 ships, carrying weapons of unknown capability, crewed by beings who had traveled 4 years across the galaxy for one dead child. For the first time in his long military career, Vex Talar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not fear of death in battle, but fear of an enemy whose motivations were completely alien to him. The humans were coming, and they cared about things the Zephyrian collective had never learned to value. That made them more dangerous than any enemy the collective had ever faced. In 6 months, Vex Talar would finally understand what Emma Martinez's life had been worth to humanity. He would learn it in the fire of human weapons and the fury of human justice. The human expeditionary fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. Admiral Susan Davis stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as 200 human ships formed battle formation around 3 planets and dozens of space stations. "Admiral, we're detecting over 300 Zephyrian vessels," reported Lieutenant Ben Torres. "They're moving to intercept us." "Expected," Susan replied calmly. "Communications. Open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet." The main screen flickered, showing Commander Vex Talar on his flagship. The alien who had killed Emma Martinez looked older somehow, his large black eyes showing something that might have been weariness. "Human fleet, you have entered collective space without permission. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Admiral Davis stepped forward. "I am Admiral Susan Davis of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. 4 years ago, you murdered Emma Martinez, a 16-year-old girl who is trying to save the life of your wounded soldier. We have come to collect payment for that crime. The collective has offered compensation many times during your journey. You have refused all reasonable settlements. There is no compensation for the life of a child. There is only justice." "Admiral," Davis's voice was steel, "surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to human military law. Continue to resist, and you will learn why humanity protects its children." Vex Talar's image flickered with what the translation software identified as alien laughter. You are outnumbered and far from your supply lines. Your primitive technology cannot match collective science. Surrender, and we may allow some of your ships to return home. You've had 4 years to study us, Vextalar, but you still don't understand what you're facing. Admiral Davis turned to her tactical officer. Dr. Rogers, show them what human engineering can accomplish. Dr. Carl Rogers activated the shield disruption devices that Dr. Nathan Price had built. Invisible signals reached across space, finding the Zephyrian ships and analyzing their defensive systems. Within seconds, every alien shield in the system collapsed simultaneously. It's based on the interference patterns we observed in their technology, Nathan explained to Admiral Davis. One of these devices can disable the shields on an entire alien fleet. They'll be defenseless against our kinetic weapons. How many did you build? 500. Every ship in our fleet will carry at least 2 of them. Admiral Davis smiled grimly. The aliens think they know what they're facing. They have no idea what human engineering can accomplish when we're properly motivated. The final ship modifications were completed just as the fleet prepared to depart. The UES Retribution, Admiral Davis's flagship, had been transformed from a scientific research vessel into a command ship capable of coordinating the largest military operation in human history. On the bridge, Admiral Davis looked at the tactical display showing all 200 ships of the fleet. Each ship represented thousands of hours of work, millions of dollars in resources, and the determination of an entire species to seek justice for one murdered child. Fleet status report, she ordered. All ships report ready for departure, Admiral. Came the reply. Crews are at battle stations. All weapon systems are operational. Communications. Open a channel to the entire fleet. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Susan Davis took a deep breath and spoke the words. That would begin humanity's first interstellar war. This is Admiral Davis to all ships of the human expeditionary fleet. 4 years ago, Emma Martinez died trying to save an alien life. Today, we begin our journey to show the galaxy what happens to those who repay human kindness with murder. She paused, thinking of the 16-year-old girl whose death had united an entire species in righteous anger. Emma wanted to study alien life to help it flourish across the galaxy. We go now to ensure that her dream can continue and that no other human child will die for showing compassion to those who don't deserve it. The Admiral's voice grew hard. Fleet, prepare for hyperspace jump. Target, Zephyrian home system. Mission, deliver justice for Emma Martinez. 200 ships engaged their hyperspace drives simultaneously, disappearing from Earth's solar system in flashes of light. The journey to Zephyrian space would take 4 years, but humanity was patient. They had spent 4 years preparing for this moment. In 4 more years, the aliens would learn that killing Emma Martinez was the worst mistake they had ever made. The human expeditionary fleet traveled through hyperspace at maximum speed. 200 ships moving as one toward the Zephyrian home system. Admiral Susan Davis stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the swirling lights of hyperspace through the main view screen. 4 years, she said quietly to her executive. Officer, Commander Tom Bradley. 4 years to reach them. 4 years they've had to think about what they did to Emma Martinez. Do you think they regret it, Admiral? Susan looked at Emma's photo displayed beside the navigation console. Every ship in the fleet carried the same image. I hope they do, Tom, because regret is all they'll have left when we're done with them. Life. Aboard the fleet ships settled into a routine during the long journey. The crew was trained constantly, practicing battle drills and weapon procedures. But the journey also gave them time to think about why they were making this trip across the galaxy. Father Tony Martinez served as chaplain for Battle Group 3. He was Emma's uncle, her father's brother, and he had volunteered for the mission to honor his niece's memory. Every Sunday, he held memorial services where crew members shared stories about the children they were fighting to protect. Emma believed that all life was precious. Father Tony told a gathering of sailors on the U.S. Liberty. She died proving that belief. We're not going to Zephyrian space for revenge. We're going to ensure that Emma's compassion wasn't wasted, that future generations will remember what she stood for. Dr. Kate Johnson, the fleet's chief psychologist, moved between ships to counsel crew members struggling with the mission's weight. Many volunteers had never been away from Earth for more than a few months. Now they faced 4 years in space, followed by a war against aliens. It's normal to feel doubt, Dr. Johnson told a young gunner named Steve Parker. 4 years is a long time to think about what we're doing. I keep seeing that footage of Emma helping the wounded alien, Steve replied. She was so brave. What if I freeze up in combat? What if I'm not worthy of fighting for her memory? Emma was scared too, Dr. Johnson said gently. The security footage shows her hands shaking when she approached that alien. But she did it? Anyway, that's what courage really is. Being afraid, but doing what's right. Captain Alex Wright of the UES Vengeance drilled his mixed crew of military personnel and civilian volunteers. His engineer, Jenny Adams, had become an expert missile operator during the journey. His mathematician, Dr. Carl Rogers, fine-tuned the targeting systems during their practice runs. Remember, we're not professional soldiers, Alex told his crew during a training session. But we have something the aliens don't understand. We're fighting for someone we loved, someone they took from us. The fleet intercepted alien communications during the second year of their journey. The Zephyrian Collective had finally noticed the massive human force heading toward their territory. Their messages showed confusion and growing concern. They're calling us the Revenge Fleet, reported Communications Officer Lisa White to Admiral Davis. They seemed surprised that we're actually coming. What did they expect? That we'd just forget about Emma? From their communications, that's exactly what they expected. They keep referring to her as the small one and express confusion about why we care so much about a single breeding unit. Admiral Davis felt anger rise in her chest. They don't understand family. They don't understand love. No wonder they could murder a child who was helping them. By the third year, the aliens began sending diplomatic messages to the human fleet. Commander Vex Talar himself, the alien who had ordered Emma's execution, sent a personal transmission to Admiral Davis. The alien appeared on the main screen, his large black eyes unreadable. When he spoke, translation software converted his words to English. Human Fleet Commander, I am Vex Talar of the 7th Zephyrian Battle Group. I was present at the incident on your colony world. Commander Ryan Steele walked through the shipyard, watching workers transform the exploration vessel Horizon's Edge into a weapon of war. The ship had spent 5 years mapping distant star systems. Now it would carry missiles instead of survey. Equipment. How long until she's ready? Ryan asked the chief engineer. 3 weeks, sir. We're installing the new weapon systems now. She'll have 40 missile tubes and enough firepower to level a city. Ryan nodded. Across the shipyard, dozens of other vessels underwent similar transformations. Cargo ships became troop transports. Science vessels turned into electronic warfare platforms. Even passenger liners were fitted with armor and weapons. The work continued around the clock. Welders sent sparks flying as they attached weapon mounts. Technicians ran cables for targeting systems. Every ship that could reach interstellar space was being prepared for the journey to Zephyrian territory. Engineer Amy Foster had not slept more than 4 hours at a time in 2 months. She supervised the installation of weapons on 17 different ships, working until her hands shook from exhaustion. But every time she felt tired, She thought about Emma Martinez. "The missile systems are online," Amy reported to Commander Steele. "We've tested them 3 times. They're ready." "Good work, Amy. Get some rest." "Can't rest yet, sir. The UE's Liberty needs new targeting computers. I promised Captain Wright they'd be ready by tomorrow." Ryan looked at the young engineer with concern. "Amy, you're pushing yourself too hard. Emma Martinez wouldn't want you to work yourself to death." Amy paused in her work and looked at him. "Emma Martinez is dead because she tried to help someone who didn't deserve it. The least I can do is make sure we have enough firepower to make them pay for it." Across Earth, similar scenes played out every day. Dr. Nathan Price worked 18-hour days in his laboratory, developing new weapons from human technology. He had taken apart everything from mining equipment to medical devices, looking for ways to hurt the aliens who had killed Emma. "A plasma cutters we use for asteroid mining can be weaponized," Nathan explained to a room full of military officers. "We can mount them on our ships and use them as close-range weapons. The aliens have never seen anything like them." General Paul Walker studied the weapon designs with interest. "How effective will they be? Against their ship hulls?" "Devastating. We can cut through their armor like it's paper. But we have to get close, within a few thousand kilometers." "Then we'll get close," the general said simply. In the asteroid belt, mining crews worked overtime to extract metals for ship construction. Maria Santos had transferred from her factory job to the mining station Ceres base, where she operated heavy equipment to dig up iron and rare metals. "We're producing twice our normal output," Maria reported to the base commander. "The crews are working extra shifts without complaint. Everyone wants to do their part." The base commander, Captain Joe Miller, looked at the production reports with amazement. "At this rate, we'll have enough materials to build another 50 ships. "Then let's build them, sir. Those alien bastards need to learn what happens when you mess with human kids." The recruitment centers across Earth overflowed with volunteers. Former soldiers came out of retirement. Young people canceled their college plans to join the military. Even elderly civilians demanded to contribute somehow. Retired Admiral Frank Moore found himself in command of Battle Group 7, leading 12 converted merchant ships. His crew included veterans from past conflicts and complete civilians who had never been in space before. "Admiral, I've got a 70-year-old grandmother requesting permission to serve as a gunner," reported his aide, Lieutenant Carol Davis. "What's her experience?" 40 years as a factory supervisor. "She says she knows how to handle heavy machinery and wants to shoot aliens." Frank smiled. "Give her a gunnery position. Anyone willing to fight for Emma Martinez is welcome on my ships." The training camps filled with new recruits learning to fight in space. Jenny Adams, the former cargo ship engineer, found herself learning to operate missile systems on the UES Vengeance. The ship's captain, Alex Wright, had been a peaceful merchant for 20 years, but now drilled his crew in combat tactics. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth," Alex told his mixed crew of soldiers and civilians. "We're fighting for every human child who might encounter aliens in the future. We're showing the galaxy that humans protect their own." Dr. Carl Rogers, a mathematician from MIT, applied his skills to targeting solutions for the fleet's weapons. He worked with the tactical computers, programming them to track alien ships and calculate firing solutions. "The aliens' ships move in predictable patterns," Carl explained to Admiral Davis during a strategy meeting. "Their formation flying follows mathematical rules. If we can predict their movements, we can hit them before they know we're there." "How accurate are your predictions?" 97% accuracy in our simulations." "But Admiral, this is based on limited data from the new Haven attack. In a real battle, they might change their tactics. Then we'll adapt. That's what humans do best." The intelligence analysts worked to understand everything they could about the Zephyrian collective. Dr. Richard Hayes led a team studying the security footage from Emma's death, analyzing alien technology and behavior. Their weapons appear to be energy-based, Richard reported. Probably some form of directed plasma. Their ships use a technology we don't understand for faster-than-light travel. But their tactics are rigid, almost ceremonial. "What do you mean?" asked Admiral Davis. "Watch how they landed at New Haven. Perfect formation, precise movements. They're disciplined, but they might not adapt well to unexpected situations. Human unpredictability could be our advantage." As the months passed, the human expeditionary fleet grew larger and more powerful. Ships arrived from every corner of human space, their crews eager to fight for Emma's memory. The fleet represented not just Earth's military might, but humanity's united determination. Captain Bill Stone commanded the U.S. Hammer, a converted mining ship that now carried enough explosives to destroy a moon. His crew included miners, factory workers, and college students who had volunteered for the mission. "Sir, why are we calling this operation Emma's Promise?" asked his young navigation officer. Bill looked at Emma's photo, which was displayed on every ship in the fleet. "Because we promised that little girl's parents we'd make the aliens pay for what they did, and humans always keep their promises." The alien monitoring stations detected the massive buildup of human forces, but the Zephyrian leadership dismissed the threat. How dangerous could a species be that sent children to treat enemy wounded? They had fought wars for thousands of years against species with advanced technology. Humans were newcomers to space, primitives with crude weapons. Commander Vex Talar, who had ordered Emma's execution, reviewed the intelligence reports with amusement. 200 ships? That's barely a patrol fleet. We destroyed systems with populations of billions using fewer ships than that. But the Zephyrian analysts were missing something crucial about human nature. They understood individual strength and advanced technology, but they had never encountered a species driven by pure moral outrage. They had never fought an enemy that turned every citizen into a volunteer soldier, every factory into a weapons plant, every ship into a potential warship. Dr. Nathan Price completed his final weapon design 3 weeks before the fleet's departure. The device looked simple, a small metal box that could be attached to any ship's hull. But when activated, it would emit a signal that disrupted the aliens' energy shields. Admiral Susan Davis stared at the message on her screen. She had read it 3 times, but the words still felt unreal. A human child, killed by aliens while trying to help them. The first contact humanity had dreamed about for centuries had become their worst nightmare. "Admiral, the President is on line 1, said her aide, Lieutenant Ben Torres. Susan took a deep breath and picked up the secure phone. "Madam President, you've seen the report?" "I have," came the calm voice of President Claire Thompson. "Tell me this is some kind of mistake. I wish I could. We've confirmed the transmission came from New Haven Colony. The security footage is ... clear. Emma Martinez died trying to save an alien life." Silence stretched across the line. Finally, the President spoke again. "How long until we can respond?" 4 years minimum to get a fleet there. The colony is at the edge of our space. "But Madam President, we don't know anything about these aliens. Their technology, their numbers, their intentions." "I know their intentions," President Thompson said, her voice growing hard. "They kill children who try to help them. Call an emergency session of the Global Assembly. And Susan, start preparing our fleets." The President ended the call. Admiral Davis sat back in her chair and looked out at Earth below. Luna Command orbited high above the blue planet, watching over humanity's home. She had spent 30 years in the Terran Defense Force, but never thought she would prepare for humanity's first interstellar war. 2 hours later, President Thompson stood before the Global Assembly in Geneva. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the great hall. The room was silent as she began to speak. 4 hours ago, we received confirmation of humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. I wish I could tell you it was a moment of joy and wonder. Instead, I must tell you about Emma Martinez. The president activated the main screen. Emma's photo appeared, a smiling 16-year-old girl with bright eyes and dark hair. Emma was the daughter of colonial researchers on Kepler 442b. She wanted to be a scientist like her parents. She believed that life in all forms was precious and worth protecting. The image changed to show the alien ships descending. When first contact occurred, Emma and her research team tried to communicate peacefully. The aliens responded with violence. President Thompson's voice remained steady, but her words carried weight. Emma became separated from her team during the attack. She found a wounded alien soldier and used her medical supplies to treat his injuries. She gave him water. She showed him the best of human nature. The final image showed Emma kneeling beside the alien, her hands raised in surrender as the alien commander pointed his weapon at her. For this act of compassion, she was executed. A child who tried to save an alien life was killed by aliens who valued neither mercy nor innocence. The assembly sat in stunned silence. Finally, President Thompson continued. Emma Martinez died, showing the universe who we are as a species. Now we must show the universe what happens to those who harm us. Dr. Richard Hayes sat in his laboratory at Stanford University, watching the president's speech on his computer. He had known Emma through video calls, helping her with advanced biology projects. She had been bright and curious, asking endless questions about alien life they might someday discover. Now she was dead, killed by the very aliens she had dreamed of meeting. Richard's computer chimed with an incoming message. Admiral Davis was requesting all xenobiology experts to report to Luna Command immediately. They needed to learn everything possible about the aliens who called themselves the Zephyrian Collective. Across Earth, similar messages were going out. General Paul Walker received orders to begin mobilizing the Terran fleet. Every ship capable of interstellar travel was to be recalled and prepared for war. Factory supervisors like Maria Santos got priority contracts to produce weapons and supplies in the shipyards above Mars. Chief Engineer Amy Foster looked at the conversion orders with amazement. Cargo ships were to become missile platforms. Science vessels would carry Marines instead of researchers. Even luxury cruise ships would be retrofitted with armor and weapons. "We're really going to war," said her assistant, looking at the work orders. "They killed a kid who was trying to help them," Amy replied, rolling up the blueprints. "What choice do we have?" The news of Emma's death spread across human space within hours. On colonies scattered among the stars, humans gathered to watch the security footage. They saw Emma's last moments, her kindness repaid with murder. Captain Alex Wright commanded a cargo freighter called the Safe Harbor that ran supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. When the recall order came, he was 3 months away from home. He immediately changed course and pushed his engines to maximum power. "Captain, why are we rushing back?" asked his engineer, Jenny Adams. "The cargo run to Titan Station will make us good money." Alex showed her the message about Emma Martinez. Jenny read it twice, then looked up with tears in her eyes. How old was she? 16, same age as my daughter. Jenny wiped her eyes and stood up straight. "Then let's go kill some aliens, Captain." The same scene played out on ships across human space. Merchant captains abandoned profitable routes to answer the call. Scientists left their research to design weapons. Retired soldiers came out of retirement to fight again. On Europa Station, former Admiral Frank Moore was enjoying his retirement when the news broke. He had commanded fleets in the border wars 20 years ago, but thought his fighting days were over. After watching Emma's final moments, he submitted his application to return to active duty. "You're 70 years old," his wife said as he packed his uniform. "That girl was 16, Frank replied. "Old enough to die for doing what's right. Old enough for me to fight for her memory." Ambassador Helen Clark tried to maintain diplomatic channels with the Zephyrian Collective. She sent carefully worded messages through the few communication relays that could reach their space. Her messages asked for explanations, offered dialogue, suggested peaceful solutions. The aliens sent no reply. "They're not even acknowledging that it happened," Helen reported to the president. "Either they don't care, or they think we're too weak to matter. Then we'll show them how wrong they are," President Thompson replied. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Factories that made consumer goods began producing military equipment. Universities focused their research on weapons technology. The entertainment industry created films and music about Emma Martinez. Keeping her memory alive, Dr. Nathan Price led a team of scientists working on new weapons. They studied the alien technology visible in the security footage, looking for weaknesses. Human creativity began finding ways to turn peaceful tools into instruments of war. They used some kind of energy field for their ship hulls, Nathan explained to Admiral Davis. "But our kinetic weapons should punch right through." They've never faced human engineering before. The orbital shipyards expanded rapidly. New construction. Facilities were built around every planet and major moon. Ships designed for exploration and trade were redesigned for war. The fleet that would carry humanity's response grew larger every day. 6 months after Emma's death, the first ships of the human expeditionary fleet were ready to launch. Admiral Davis stood on the bridge of the U.S. Retribution, looking at the fleet assembling around her. 200 ships, carrying 50,000 of humanity's finest soldiers and sailors. President Thompson's final message to the fleet was broadcast live across human space. "You carry with you the memory of Emma Martinez and the hopes of our entire species. Show the galaxy that humanity protects its children and punishes those who harm them. Bring our daughter home." As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Davis thought about the 16-year-old girl who had started this war by trying to save an enemy's life. Emma had shown the universe humanity's greatest strength, their compassion for all living things. Now the fleet would show the universe humanity's other strength, their absolute determination to protect the innocent, no matter the cost. The journey to Zephyrian space would take 4 years. But humanity had already waited 4 years for this moment. They could wait 4 more to deliver justice for Emma Martinez. Emma Martinez knelt beside the strange purple flower, carefully holding her scanner above its petals. The device beeped softly as it recorded data about the alien plant. She smiled and brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. At 16, Emma was the youngest member of the research team on Kepler 442b, but she had already discovered 3 new plant species. "Emma, stay close to the group," called Captain Lisa Brown from nearby. The security officer kept one hand on her weapon as she watched the forest around them. New Haven Colony had been peaceful for 2 years, but they were still on an alien world. "Just 5 more minutes," Emma replied, moving to another cluster of flowers. "These plants might help us grow better crops. Dr. Peterson will want to see this data." The colony of New Haven sat in a valley 20 miles away. 3,000 humans called it home, including Emma's parents who worked in the science labs. The planet was beautiful, with purple grass and orange trees that swayed in the gentle breeze. 2 small suns hung in the sky, casting everything in warm golden light. Emma's communicator crackled. Research Team Alpha, this is base. We're picking up unknown signals from orbit. Return to the colony immediately. Captain Brown frowned and spoke into her radio. Copy that, base. We're heading. Back now. She turned to the team. Pack up everything. We leave in 2 minutes. The 6 researchers quickly gathered their equipment. Emma took one last scan of the purple flowers before closing her device. Something felt different in the air. Small. Animals that usually chirped in the trees had gone silent. Captain, said Dr. Mike Johnson, pointing at the sky. Look. Dark shapes moved across the orange clouds above them. The objects were too large to be birds and moved too smoothly to be natural. Emma counted 5 of them, each about the size of a small building. Those are ships, Captain Brown said quietly. She pressed her communicator. Base, we have visual contact with 5 unknown aircraft. They're directly above our position. Static answered her. Then a new voice came through the radio, speaking. Words in a language none of them recognized. The voice sounded harsh and angry. They're trying to talk to us, Emma said. Maybe they're friendly. The ships began to descend. They had a strange design, all curves and smooth metal that seemed to shift color in the light. No human had ever seen technology like this before. Captain Brown pulled out a white cloth and waved it in the air. Universal peace signal, she explained. To the team, stay calm and keep your hands visible. The largest ship landed in the clearing 50 yards away. A door opened with a hissing sound, and figures emerged. Emma gasped. They were definitely not human. The being stood 7 feet tall, with gray skin and long arms. Their heads were larger than human heads, with big black eyes that had no pupils. They wore tight-fitting suits that seemed to be made of the same shifting metal as their ships. First contact, whispered Dr. Johnson. This is the most important moment in human history. Captain Brown stepped forward slowly, keeping her hands up. I am Captain Lisa Brown of the human colony New Haven. We come in peace. The aliens spoke among themselves in their harsh language. One of them, wearing a different colored suit, pointed some kind of device at the humans. Red light swept over the group. They're scanning us, said Dr. Sarah Wilson, the team's biologist. Just like we scanned the plants. The alien leader made a gesture with his long arm. 4 more aliens emerged from the ship, carrying weapons that looked like metal sticks with glowing ends. I don't think they're friendly, Captain Brown said quietly. She spoke into her radio again. Base, this is urgent. The aliens are armed and acting hostile. We need immediate evacuation. Only static came back. The alien leader pointed at Captain Brown and spoke loudly in his language. The tone was clearly threatening. When she didn't respond, he raised his weapon. Run! Captain Brown shouted. The team scattered into the forest. Emma ran as fast as she could, branches catching at her clothes. Behind her, she heard the sound of alien weapons firing. Strange blue light flashed between the trees. She found herself alone after 5 minutes of running. Her heart pounded as she crouched behind a large rock. Through the trees, she could see the alien ships rising into the air. Were her friends safe? Had Captain Brown escaped? Emma tried her communicator, but it only made static sounds. The aliens had probably jammed their signals. She was on her own. A groaning sound came from nearby. Emma froze, then carefully looked around the rock. An alien soldier lay on the ground 30 feet away, green blood flowing from a wound in his leg. His weapon had been thrown clear and lay broken against a tree. A knew she should run. These aliens had attacked her team without warning. But the being was hurt and might die without help. Her parents had taught her that all life was precious, even alien life. She approached slowly, making soft sounds to show she meant no harm. The alien saw her coming and tried to reach for something on his belt, but he was too weak. Emma knelt beside him and pulled out her medical kit. "It's okay," she said gently. "I want to help you." The alien stared at her with his large black eyes. Emma cleaned the wound and applied healing foam from her kit. The alien stopped struggling and watched her work. When she finished, she offered him water from her bottle. "There," Emma said with a smile. "You'll be okay now." The alien made a soft sound that might have been gratitude. He reached out slowly and touched Emma's hand with one long finger. For a moment, human and alien looked at each other in understanding. Heavy footsteps crashed through the forest. More aliens appeared, pointing their weapons at Emma. She raised her hands and stepped away from the wounded soldier. "I was helping him," she said. "He's hurt." The alien commander wore a different uniform with bright symbols. He looked at his wounded soldier, then at Emma. The wounded alien spoke rapidly in their language, probably explaining what had happened. The commander listened, then raised his weapon toward Emma. The wounded soldier cried out and tried to grab the commander's arm, but he was too weak. Emma closed her eyes. "I just wanted to help." The blue light was the last thing she ever saw. Colony Administrator Jake Peterson watched the security footage for the 10th time. The cameras on Emma's suit had recorded everything until the moment she died. The alien commander had executed a 16-year-old girl who was trying to save one of his soldiers. Jake's hands shook as he prepared. The emergency transmission to Earth. How do you tell an entire planet that their children are no longer safe among the stars? He began to type. Priority Alpha message to Terran Command. First contact has occurred on Kepler 442b. Results: 1 human civilian killed by hostile aliens. Victim was Emma Martinez, age 16. She died while providing medical aid to wounded alien soldier. Recommend immediate military response. Jake paused and added one more line. They killed a child who is trying to help them. The message would take 4 years to reach Earth, but when it did, humanity would learn that their greatest act of compassion had been met with their cruelest loss, and humanity would remember Emma Martinez when they decided how to respond to the stars.